Here we have the Trent Austin TA2 trumpet mouthpiece. And we're going to take a look at the specs that are published on the website, measure everything, and then discuss what we can do with this mouthpiece, because it does appear to be a promising lead mouthpiece. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the throat, since I have the gauge pin in my hand. I have already measured it. It's relatively small. It came out to a 147. I'm just going to pop that in there. It is a very tight fit. So this is a 147. And you're not really going to get a lot of air through it, but that gives you room if you want to open it up in the future. And this TA2 on the website is supposedly compared to a Monette B4L. Well, I have a Monette B4L, so we'll take a look at them side by side here in a second and just see how they compare. It's considered a medium shallow bowl, and he puts the cup depth at 4.5 on his scale. So it's interesting because it's not very easy to measure the cup depth when it becomes more like a funnel, and this one has a couple contours to it, but you can see in there it almost becomes like a V funnel a couple times. So not so easy to measure, and it's not easy to put those numbers on paper. So Trent Austin's mouthpieces have been produced by Peter Pickett over the years. And this does appear to be one that was made by Peter as well. And one thing I want to do is measure the outside diameter, because on the website it says it should be 1065, which is a smaller diameter than is normal on the outside. Let me make sure I got that right. 1073. Well, it isn't 1065, but let me measure it one more time. 1073, and that's measuring all the way up here. If I go way up, no, it's still 1073. So I don't know, maybe that's just a mistake on their website. The other thing I want to measure is the back bore. So let's get in here, see what the end of that is. 318, so it's fairly small. 310 is usually the smallest you'll find, unless it's a very small lead mouthpiece. So this clearly is not much of a taper going from the throat to the back bore. It's more cylindrical than a big taper, which means it's going to play more focused. So let me grab the B4L that we're comparing this to and see how they compare. I think I have one right here. All right, so I'm going to hold them up to the camera here in a second. But I want to take a look closely and see what they look like just to my eye. First thing is the B4L is a much bigger throat. The gauge pin just flew right through that throat, so it is smaller. And the length on these two is different. As you can see, the Monette is shorter. And then the back bores may or may not be the same, but I like to measure things, so we're going to find out. So the Monette comes out to 312. So they're within 6,000ths of each other on the very back bore. In reality, because the Monette has a much bigger throat, then the taper is not going to be the same on these. And the one thing I didn't do is measure the length of this mouthpiece. So let me do that. 3465. The Monette is 3165. So you've got 3/10 of an inch difference between these two mouthpieces. Now I've played the B4L many times over the years. I find it's a great mouthpiece. I'm going to hold them up close to the screen so you can see both. I tend to believe that the profile and the radius on the inside and the outside of these mouthpieces is very similar. So it looks like Peter scanned a B4L and then, at least on the top part, set that up as the Trent Austin 2 or the TA2. They do look very similar. I could put these on the coordinate measuring machine and then scan both and find out exactly how they're different. Actually, I have scans of both of them. If I have time, maybe I'll put the scans in this video so you can see them overlap. But I just realized they both have scanned written on both of them, so we've already scanned them both. So let's play the TA2 and see what it's like. And then the next review I will do of the B4L, and I'll give you my comparisons of the two. Well, I have to say that this mouthpiece plays really beautifully. It's got a huge, warm, vibrant tone, and I could get used to this, right away. So I'm impressed with the level of manufacturing. Clearly, I think that Peter is making these on a Harding lathe, and clearly they're very accurate, very clean. I would guess this mouthpiece came off of the lathe probably with a near perfect surface finish, because I don't see any evidence of it, really needing anything. There's no chatter. Doesn't look like it was over buffed. So it looks really beautiful, and it sounds really nice. It does feel a little small on the throat to me, but I can get used to that. So I'll get used to it right now. So I just reduced how much air I'm putting in the upper register, and it pops right out. All right, it feels really nice. Flexibility wise, I think it's there. It's there. I mean, this mouthpiece has it all. You've got the warmth, the vibrancy, all the colors of the lows, the mids, and the highs on the partials. It moves around easily, and I would say it could probably work in almost any situation. So, great work to Trent Austin and Peter Pickett for putting out a very nice plain mouthpiece that I would recommend to anyone who fits into that rim size. And speaking of the rim size, it is supposed to be, what did I say it was? Oh, it's supposed to be a 664. So I'm going to measure that right now. Let's say 664, which sounds a little big. Okay, yeah, maybe on the computer before all the curves were drawn, it was a 664, but what I'm measuring is much smaller than that. And that could be that the radius tool, or whatever tool had cut this, was just a little off. But if I go way to the outside edges of the inside diameter, then I do get 661, so it's pretty close. In my system, in the 5mm, it would be 594. So it's a 594 in the 5mm, and that's because at the rim, when it comes down like this, it creates this V. So when you get down to 120 thousandths, it's a lot smaller. So the high point on this is probably fairly large. Let's see if I can measure it. Looks like it's around 830. So in the 5mm, you'd be looking at maybe an 820, 830 by 594 to get that kind of a setup. All right, overall, a really great mouthpiece, and I'm happy to review this one today.